So to create the radio buttons, really what I've done is I went to XML and I created a radio group like this radio group, and then I went back to the interface and drag and drop inside. How do you create this radio group? Very simple. Just write control space and Eclipse will give you suggestion and write radio and you select this radio group. When you do that, next go to the interface, drag and drop the radio buttons inside the radio group. That's how you actually create the radio buttons linked to each other. That's how you create those links with each other. So when they are part of one radio group, only one of them can be selected at a time. And then if you want to move any one of the radio button, you have to click on the radio group and move it together. And any resizing, any adjustments you have to do before. Now, once that is done, Eclipse will give you warnings and messages just here at the bottom of the interface in yellow color, and you should just select match parent over there. This match parent will come to it later on. It's basically the size of the radio group. How big should be the radio group on the interface? That's what it is asking. So you just select match parent and that should go away. The error should go away and then you can run this on your interface. But that's the interface designing part only. What is remaining is the Java coding. So now when you submit this, what we want to do is pass on this customer's name and the choice, vegetarian or non-vegetarian or the third option, to the second screen. That's really what we want to do. So to do that, remember from the PowerPoint presentations yesterday, we need to look at is checked. Is checked. So if any of these buttons is checked, meaning it is clicked or selected, you will know that it is selected because it will give you true. If you write is checked over here for this button's reference, it will give you true. Or if you check this one, it will give you true, and if you're checking this one, it will give you true. Otherwise, if it's not selected, you'll get false. So let's give these names, the IDs, and then start creating the Java code. I'll write radio veg, enter, and then this should be radio gen. So I've given them names. Whenever you modify anything in your interface activity, make sure you save it. Now let's go back to the interface, to the Java file, and this on-click listener is the button on-click listener. I only need to read the values now. I cannot read, even though I can read before the user has clicked the button, but it will not make sense. The user can keep on changing his or her choice. Let me show you what. So you see now the user can click on any of these two and you don't need to do any coding. At Java you should not be doing any code. You know why? Because before submitting, the user can change the choice and then do a submit button, then click on the submit button. So what does that mean? Whatever code I should write for the checkbox should be inside on-click listener. Inside on-click listener, I should be checking whether one of these is checked. So how will I do that? First of all, I need to create the reference. To create the reference, I will write radio. Should I need the reference of radio group? I need the reference for radio button only, not the radio group. There's no need, because radio group is for organizing that these three are connected together, and it will manage that, and it will enforce only one is selected, not all, not two, only one is selected. That is what radio group will do. But in the interface, we don't need to read radio group. We need to read the values of radio button only, which one is selected. So what I'm going to do is radio button, and I'll say veg is equal to radio button, find view by ID, r dot id dot radio veg, and I'm gonna do same for the rest. Three possible choices the user can make. and now when the intent is passed on, we will pass on the choice of the user data. And it does not matter, you do the decision, check which radio was clicked. It does not matter you do it before the intent or after the intent, as long as you have the decision. This is one way of doing it. Yes, you're asking the question. Okay. So I'll create a variable to store the decision somewhere. And I'll say string meal is equal to nothing, and if veg dot is checked, then meal is equal to vegetarian. Else, all right. Now, can anybody guess what is this veg without telling the final? Yes. Else, that's the standard way in Java and C# also. If else, and if you do else if, it is always better. It will not come here. Else if non veg dot is checked, meal is equal to non-vegetarian. Else if Jan dot is checked, meal is equal to Jan. So now you've got the value inside meal. You have assigned one of these strings. Either he or she is vegetarian or non-vegetarian or Jan. And when you created my intent, before starting the activity, you write inside this my intent dot put extra meal and the value of meal. So the other activity will read meal and display whatever the choice user has made. That's all the activity. What you need to do is to understand this if else. What does if else means? So if else over here is just checking if vegetarian is checked, then meal is vegetarian. If non-vegetarian is checked, then meal is non-vegetarian. If Jan is checked, then the meal is Jan, and it will pass on the meal selection over here in the key of meal. So the other activity will open the key of meal by saying get intent dot get extras dot get string meal. So it will give you the value meal, whatever the user has selected. That's how it works. So there is one easier way also to make this a little short. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this at all. This line. Actually, not writing this and writing this is actually same. Can anybody guess why? Yes, then this is obvious. If it's not that one and it's not that one, then obvious it is. Then there's no need to do the checking again. So that's true in the cases of 3. In the cases of 2, let's say if there is only 2 options, vegetarian and non-vegetarian, then I'll also delete this and also delete this. When there's only 2 options, meal and non-vegetarian and vegetarian, then I'll do this. But now since I have 3, I will do this. And this is completely optional. You can take this out. Okay. Now let me try running this. Before running this, I have to put this on the second activity. I need to read it on the second activity. I'll go to the activities interface. This was displaying customer's name, and now I will also have one more text view, and its text should be meal, and one more text view. This is also empty now, but let me just leave it like that. LBL meal. So when the second activity starts, it should read from the intent and display here in LBL meal. Can anybody help me here? What should I do in displaying this on the second activity? get a reference first. I'll just copy this, paste here. LBL mail, LBL mail, and then here I should say LBL mail dot set text, get intent dot get extras dot get string. What should I write here? Mail, and that gives me the mail choice, and when I run this, it should display whatever the user has selected. Run, yeah, saved, because it's saved all of it. So I ran this again, and I'll write the user's name, for example, and then I'll select non-veg and then submit, and Aisha Muhammad, non-veg. Okay, so that's how you take the user's input from checkboxes and from radio button. Sorry, checkboxes is exactly similar except that there is no group. There's no radio group. There's no checkbox group. There's something in advanced checkboxes. We'll come to that later on if time allows. But that's something which will come later on if time allows again. So I'm basically reproducing some of the problems which I've seen in your interfaces and showing you what is the solution. So I come to second activity, and I see there is a text view called LBL name. By mistake, this is LBL mail and this is LBL name. What I do is by mistake I rename this to LBL name. So I already have an LBL name, and I create this one also, LBL name, and that actually messes up everything. So you see, now I have a error in my project. If you go to your XML file, it will show you this error. There is line shows you red color here, and it shows you error. And when you go back to graphic layout, you will still see this error. Now if unknowingly you save it, you go back to Java file for some reason, and then you come back to this file, which is the interface file, and if you try opening it again, let me just close this and I'll try opening this again. Okay, this is under layout, resources, layout. In most of the cases, you will see it is not opening. It will not open in most of the cases, but you still see this red sign. When you see the red sign over here, there is a problem, and if you go to the XML, it will tell you this red color somewhere. You see the red color? It will tell you there is a problem here, solve it. You bring your mouse over it, it will tell you duplicate. I already have LBL name and you have given LBL name to something else also, solve it. So the easier way out is, instead of messing up with this XML, easier way out is only that piece of XML tag, delete it. You highlight this, you see the text view starts here and it ends here. You know the XML tag, this tag is for ending and this tag is for opening or starting. So you highlight the whole tag, and you know what it is, it's a text view with LBL name. Instead of writing this XML yourself, delete it and create another with a name which is not conflicting the other one. So I'll create another text view and I will give it the name, what was it, LBL meal, and okay. So that should solve my problem. There is no red color. Now when you have this red color, the project also gives you error here. The project cannot deploy the file. When you make this kind of mistake, it will not be able to deploy the file. But let me now show you some of the Java errors. You don't have SS warning, you mean? Ignore the warning. Warnings are sometimes version warning. Sometimes they say the preferred way to do it is something else than what you are doing it. But as long as you don't see errors, you are okay. Because I will see warnings even now. I see actually 15 warnings now, but my program is working fine. It's not working? Okay, I'll come to you and I'll solve that. But let me just show you what are the common ones. Now, if I go to the Java file, so when I come to my Java file, let me just show you what kind of problems people also make. You see this first activity.java. I'll come here, and I don't want to restart my clips. That's the way to solve this. But let me just show you. This is txt name. I would prefer you guys give same variable names in Java as the interface name. This will solve you from remembering different name. Oh, this is in Java, that one is in the interface. Same names. Give same names. Whatever component has the name in the interface, give same variable name in Java. That will save you some trouble of memorizing different variable names. And this radio wedge, if it has same radio wedge, it will save you the trouble from memorizing different names. But I mean, I do it extempore because I do it a lot of times, so I don't normally make these kind of mistakes. But for the first time or fresh programmers, they do come across these kind of mistakes. But let's say this is vegetarian, right? And it's a radio button. I mistakenly do write over here txt name. Then you know what? Eclipse will not give me error, because this is my programmer's choice. This is a txt name, and I assign it to a radio button, and I call it wedge, and I do when is checked, etc. And this will basically be a warning but no error, and I can actually run it. Let me just show you. I'll run it now. Right click, run, and I want you to be able to solve these issues, because this can happen even in your exam, even while you're working on the project. I'll run it now. And I'll wait so it comes up here. The error should come up here. And you can see the errors basically in your program, if any, by going to show view problems. You see the problems? There are no problems right now. And there are two more windows you should be concerned with. And when you open problems normally, they also open console and logcat. Both of them show what Android is doing right now. What Android is doing. So this button actually clears the log. It clears whatever is there. And you see some fresh errors coming up. These fresh errors may be related to Android or may be related to your application. How you will find out what is the application problem? Let it just start my application. Okay, I have some. It's actually showing me lots of messages. A lot of this is not related to me or my application. You click on this verbose. Do you see this verbose? Click error. This means only show me when there is error. Don't see lots of these messages. It is actually showing you log that I started this component, I'm preparing to start, if you select this error, it will only show you errors. Let me just show you. I click on error, it is not showing me blue color, green colors, etc. It is only showing me red colors. Red color means there are some errors in starting the Android. Actually, you know what, it is not getting permission to open camera, it is not getting permission to open maps, etc. It is not related to me now. I only want the basic Android to come up. So just you can ignore these and wait for Android to start up. It will start up. It has actually started up automatically. You can unlock this now and clear this log. Now I'll run my application. Right click, run as Android application. When I run this, you can go back and see the problems. You see the problems here? There is this problem shows you compile time problems before you run it on the Android. And console shows you very small summary of what Android is doing right now. Logcat shows you actual problems which is related to your code. Now you see, just now there is a lot of red colors came in. I cleared it, but just now it came up. So now what you should be looking for is caused by. You see this caused by? Caused by tells you where is the problem, and it tells you class cast exception. Class cast is converting basically. So it says the Android widget is edit text and you're converting this to radio button. You see, it gives you. Now you should be looking for caused by. This caused by says class cast, meaning conversion. It is actually edit text and you're changing it to radio button. It tells you here, and it gives you the line number also. Do you see this line number? It tells you first activity. This is my first activity which I created on create method, and line number 23. How will you see line number 23? Go to your first activity. This first activity, and this in the bottom is showing you line number. Do you see this? That is showing you line number. I'm at 27, 26, 25, 24, and now 23. It gave me you have a problem at line number 23, which is this one where my cursor is right now, and tells me it's actually a edit text, you're changing it to radio button. So now you know, yes, it's a radio button I need, and what I'm referring to is a txt name. So delete this and write radio wedge. That solves your problem, and it will now run. So this logcat shows you the exact error, which line number and which Java file. Logcat. But make sure you keep it on error, because otherwise it will give you other errors also related to Android camera, Android maps, permissions, etc., which is not related to your project yet. So keep looking at logcat, it will give you the line number exactly, and also what is the problem. Sometimes you see I write over here, this is what radio button, right? It's first activity, I have the radio button here. Now let me go to second activity, and I create a new text view, actually radio button some radio is equal to radio button, find view by id r.id dot radio anything, radio wedge. No error, I will not get any error. This is just import. I will import radio button. But when I run this, it will give me error. You know why? Can anybody guess why? I'm creating a link to radio button over here, and it is called radio wedge. Do I have a radio wedge here? There is no radio wedge, but it is registered in Android as some link. So you should know which activity has what widget. Does it have radio wedge, this second activity? It does not. So don't create this link. But let's run this and see how will we know that there is this kind of problem. I'll right click, connecting activities. Make sure you go to the problems over here, the logcat, and clear it before running your Android project again, because you don't want to see the previous problem. You want to see what problem comes now when you run it. So you go to the project, right click, run as Android application project, and the logcat should come up automatically when it is starting up. Otherwise you can click on the logcat from Windows, show view logcat also. I have this here. There is no error so far, but has it started? How will I know it has started? If I don't want to go to the emulator, how can I know it has started? You see, the summary comes on console. Go to console, it will tell you installing connecting activities, and this will be the time it is showing you, 1436, which is right now, 1436:03, which tells you what time installed in the emulator and there was success. So it's successfully installed, and starting intent, it also started the intents inside per second. So it's already there, it started. Let's go to emulator. You see it's there. I'll write my name, Murad, and I say something. But if you remember, there is a problem now. What problem? Second activity, I created a link to something which is not there. Now submit this. Let's look at logcat. There is no error, which is very. So I created Murad and I created vegetarian. Let's look at second activity. I created some radio. Okay, I have a link. As long as I don't use it, it will not complain. The link I have created. Let me just use this over here and show you. Some radio dot is dot is checked. If some radio dot is checked, then do something. I'll say string do something equal to this, and I'll say do something is equal to something. Do something is equal to do something. Okay. So I will check if this radio button is checked, then do something. But this radio button is not there on the interface. So it will give you this error, and you can find out that I am now doing something on an interface control on a widget which is not there. Let me just run this. So there is, unfortunately, it has stopped. So let's go back to the log. You see this logcat, it tells you all these red errors, and the timestamp is just now. Okay, this timestamp is coming from the time in the Android device, but it is just now. And look for the word caused by. See, this caused by is telling you null. Something is null. Null means nothing. Something you're referring to which is not there. It's not there. It's nothing. And then it is also telling you second activity is the file where the error is coming from in the onCreate method, and the line number is 27. So I go back to the Java file, the second activity, line number 27. This is where it is showing me the 27 line number 27, and I say this is null. How can this be null? I place this on the interface. You see some radio wedge. Is this on the interface? Second activity, yes, it is on the interface. Let's go and check. Now you see it's not there. Now you see you've been mixing up with radio which is on the first activity. So now you will remember, and you will get rid of this and get rid of this. And now you see I have to write this code in the first activity. When this happens, when you have multiple activities, 3 activities, it starts when you have 3 activities. Generally 2 is manageable, but it starts with 3 activities. So that's where you see problems coming from, and that's how you solve it. Another thing, I think this is the last thing, and then I'll conclude. When you want to know how many steps have been done, like let's say you have a big code over here. You see, you have references, then you have some calculation. Let's say you want to know at which step is the problem, and logcat cannot give you any clue. For example, it is not making sense. Then you do this. This is the